Good day, learners! Welcome to Module 3 about prehistoric, ancient Egypt, classical Greek, and Roman era architectures. Here, our objectives are: compares the characteristics of artworks produced in prehistoric, Egyptian, Greek, and Roman era. 2. Creates a miniature using available materials guided by the concepts and ideas from prehistoric, Egyptian, Greek, and Roman era. And 3. Realizes the importance of concepts and ideas of architecture from prehistoric, Egyptian, Greek, and Roman era. So before we start, let's have a pretest. Here, you have to unscramble the letters to reveal the name of the given picture. You will only be given 5 seconds to unscramble the letters. Are you ready? Let's start. 3, 4, 'Now let's reveal the answers. The correct answer is pyramid. 2. The correct answer is megalith. 3. The correct answer is Parthenon. 4. The correct answer is Colosseum. Now let's have a recap on our previous lesson. In this activity, you have to identify the era of sculpture described in the following sentences. 1. Their sculptures have greater freedom of style. From what era is this? If you answered Gothic, that's correct. Very good. Number 2. Some of their famous sculptural pieces are reliquaries, altar frontals, crucifixes, and devotional images. From what era is this? If you answered Romanist, that's correct. Wow, good job. Number 3. Materials used during this period vary according to region and locality. From what era is this? If you answered prehistoric, that's correct. Bravo! Number 4. Symbolic elements such as forms, hieroglyphics, relative size, location, materials, color, actions, and gesture were widely used during this era. From what era is this? If you answered Egyptian, that's correct. Very good. Number 5. Most of their sculptures are made of monumental terracotta. From what era is this? If you answered Roman, that's correct. Good job. Wow! Did you get a perfect score? I hope you did. Now, let's start our lesson about the architecture from early age and discuss about the prehistoric architecture. In prehistoric architecture, man has developed a form of architecture based on megaliths, meaning a big rock, from the Greek word lithos, which means stone, and megas, which means big. This architecture is made of huge stone blocks which were probably intended for burial. Megalithic monuments have always ignited man's imagination. They provided plenty of legends and superstitions. During this era, stones and rocks were associated with divinity. So there are 3 main types of megalith stones. First, we have menhir, a huge stone standing vertically in the middle of the field, arranged in rows, just like what you see in the picture. Next is called dolmens. The word dolmen originated from the expression taolmaen, which means stone table. These structures are in a form of table consisting of 2 huge standing stones supporting a horizontal giant stone, just like this. It is believed that it served as grave or as an altar. Another type is called cromlech, a Brythonic word where crom means bent or curved, and lech, which means slab or flagstones. Literally, it is a circle of standing stones, just like what you see in this picture. Now, let's discuss the Egyptian architecture. The Egyptian architectural design was developed during the pre-dynastic period 4000 BC. So let us know the characteristics of Egyptian architecture. 1. The structure has thick, sloping walls with few openings to obtain stability. 2. The exterior and interior walls, along with columns and piers, were covered with hieroglyphics and pictorial frescoes and carvings painted in brilliant colors. 3. Ornamentations were symbolic. 4. Temples were aligned with astronomically significant events like solstices and equinox with precise measurements. The pyramids of Giza are the most substantial ancient structures of the world. The 3 pyramids are the funerary structures of the 3 kings of the 4th dynasty from 2575 to 2465 BC. These pyramids were made highly confusing and with many tunnels to create confusion for grave robbers. Egyptian temples were built to serve as places of residence for the gods. They also served as key centers for economic activity. Ancient temples were made of perishable materials like wood, reed matting, and mud brick. The walls were covered with scenes that were carved onto the stones, then brightly painted. Another type of pyramid is called the matsaba. It is a type of Egyptian tomb in the form of a flat-roofed, rectangular structure with outward sloping sides. It was made of mud bricks or stones. Now let's move on to Greek architecture. Here, temples consisted of a central shrine or room in an aisle surrounded by rows of columns. So there are 3 architectural style or orders: Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian. The Parthenon, 447 to 432 BC Athens, is the greatest classical Greek temple ingeniously engineered to correct an optical illusion. The columns were slightly contorted, swollen at the center and leaning inward to correct what would otherwise have been an impression of deadness and top-heaviness. Now let's talk about the Roman architecture. Here, they built sturdy stone structures both for use and to perpetuate their glory. The emperors erected huge halls and arenas for public games, baths, and processions. They built these with gigantic arches of stone, bricks, and concrete, or with barrel vaults, and this is called the Colosseum. Now that we're done with our lesson, let's have activities to test what you've learned from our lesson today. For your first activity, you have to draw the different forms of the early age architecture and identify the distinctive characteristics or materials used, etc., and purpose of architecture. Again, here, you have to draw the different forms of the early age architecture and identify the distinctive characteristics, material used, etc., and purpose of architecture. Now, let's have some more activities. Your next activity is called the Mini Stonehenge. Experience the feel of prehistoric architecture by creating a mini Stonehenge using recycled and available local materials. Here are the materials that you may use for this activity. Flat and elongated rocks or papier-mâché stones unavailable, glue gun and glue stick, soil with pot, cardboard. So here's how you should do your activity. Procedure number 1. Collect stones of different shapes, preferably elongated and flat stones. Ask for the help of your parents or guardians. 2. Clean your stones thoroughly with soap and water, then dry. Number 3. While waiting for your stones to dry out, prepare your Stonehenge stand. You can use a vacant pot or garden dish filled with soil. Number 4. If pot with soil is not available, use cardboard. Color your cardboard green for the ground grass effect, or you can improvise using similar materials. 5. If the Stonehenge stand is ready, arrange your Stonehenge. Select from the 3 types of megaliths. Use glue gun or paste to stick your Stonehenge in place. Number 6. If satisfied with artwork, take a photo of it and present to your teacher. So here's an example of what you're going to do. Wow! Now let's have our wrapped up activity. Here you have to fill the statements below to complete the sentence. Prehistoric man has developed a form of architecture based on blank. The architecture is made of blank, which were probably intended for blank. There are 3 main types of this: blank, blank, and blank. Next, Egyptian architecture. One of the most interesting Egyptian architecture are the blank, which are used as tomb for blank. The blank is a type of Egyptian tomb in the form of a flat-roofed rectangular structure with outward sloping sides. It was made of blank. Next, Greek and Roman architecture. The most noticeable feature of Greek and Roman architecture are the blank. There are 3 main types of this: blank, blank, and blank. In Greece, the blank is the greatest classical temple known to man, while in Rome, an arena called blank was erected for public games and processions. As early as the prehistoric period, homes in whatever form have always been one of our basic needs for survival. Houses from then on evolved from caves to stones, and man continues to improve the structure and architecture of community buildings, bridges, churches, and most importantly, our homes. The importance of our homes being the greatest architecture was by far magnified because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Thus, the government's call for stay-at-home was roaring loud during the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. Why do you think staying at home is stressed out by the government? What are your reflections while staying at home and at the comfort of your home during this crisis? What are your stay-at-home adventures? Now, let's end our lesson with the post-test. So here, you have to choose the letter with the correct answer. Number 1. A prehistoric structure in a form of table consisting of 2 huge standing stones supporting a horizontal giant stone. A. Cromlech. B. Dolmens. C. Megalith. D. Menhir. The correct answer is letter B. Dolmens. Number 2. A type of Egyptian tomb in the form of a flat-roofed rectangular structure with outward sloping sides. A. Colosseum. B. Giza. C. Mastaba. D. Parthenon. The correct answer is letter C. Mastaba. Number 3. Below are the characteristics of Egyptian architecture except letter A. The architecture is made of huge stone blocks called megaliths. B. The ornamentations were symbolic. C. The structure has thick sloping walls with few openings. D. Temples were aligned with astronomically significant events. The correct answer is letter A. The architecture is made of huge stone blocks called megaliths. 4. A Greek classical temple with impressive columns ingeniously engineered to correct optical illusion? A. Colosseum, B. Giza, C. Mastaba, D. Parthenon. The correct answer is letter D, Parthenon. And lastly, number 5, Roman architecture intended for huge balls and arenas for public games, baths, and procession. A. Colosseum, B. Giza, C. Mastaba, D. Parthenon. The correct answer is letter A, Colosseum. So that's all for today. I hope you've learned and enjoyed our lesson today. Thank you for listening.